Hey there folks, welcome to the channel. I hope you're having a great day. My name is Eric and today we're going to be dry curing some meat. Now if you're into dry cured meats or meat preservation, or if you're just getting interested in wanting to dry cure meats at home, you're definitely going to want to stick around to the end of this video because truth be told, I have no idea what's going to happen because this project was really more of a challenge. About 18 months ago, we got a message asking whether it was possible to make the very popular dry cured Italian ham known as Culatello in your home refrigerator. Now, I gotta be completely honest, I've never dry cured anything for longer than 3 to 4 months in my home refrigerator. We've dry aged plenty of stuff in our home fridge, and truth be told, after about 90 days, the results weren't very favorable. This Culatello is actually gonna be drying in our home refrigerator for 12 to 18 months. A lot can go wrong. Let's see what happens.
The first thing I had to do was get a hind leg of a pig, so I went to my butcher, acquired one, and now we are skinning it. When you skin it, you want to make sure to not remove too much of that fat that's on the backside of the pig leg, because that's going to give you that beautiful fat cap on your Culatello. So here we go. Let me show you how to identify the Culatello itself. The hind leg is divided by 2 leg bones. Notice there's a muscle group on the right and on the left. This right here is one muscle group. Notice that it's large and meaty. And this right over here is the second muscle group. Notice it's much smaller and less meaty. The bigger muscle group is known as the Culatello, while the smaller muscle group is known as the Fiocco. Here it is again without the high-tech graphics. This is the Culatello right here. And over here on the other side is the Fiocco. Now, if you have the other hind leg, it will be reversed. All right, so let me just show you how we're going to separate the Culatello. We're going to start by removing the H bone, and you want to be careful when you remove these bones to not cut into the muscle itself. So that's part of the H bone right there. Notice we've exposed the ball joint, and this little flap of meat right here, we're just going to cut it off and use that for salami. Now, notice I've exposed a little artery next to the ball joint. It's good practice to drain any blood that might remain inside that artery. If you don't drain it, it could go rancid, and you don't want that inside your dry cured meats or your dry cured sausages. So I'm just taking my fingers, starting at the foot of the leg, and I'm running it up, and that's going to push any of that blood out. Very easy. We only have to do it a couple times because there's really not a whole lot in there. All right, so once we do that, we can go ahead and begin by removing the Culatello. The way I like to do it, and there's lots of different techniques on how to remove this particular muscle, but I like to come at an angle from the hock. Once I hit that bone, I like to just follow the bone all the way up to the ball joint. And that's what that's going to look like. Once the bone's been exposed, I'm just going to carefully cut the Culatello off of the bone. Now, I personally don't like to have a huge gap in my Culatello. So for me, it's almost a vertical cut where the bone and the Culatello muscle meet. Now, where you look at the top, I am going to make a horizontal cut all the way to the ball joint, just like that. And that's going to basically square off the face of our muscle. And there we go. That's our Culatello. It's been removed from the leg. And now it's time to cure it. So what I am going to do is truss this up. Just 3 simple butcher's knots, not a big deal, but I have made this without trussing it up, and it tends to hold its shape pretty well. So you can technically omit this step if you want to. To cure your Culatello, we're going to need to weigh it first, because the weight of the meat is going to determine how much of the spices that we add. Head over to my website, type in the weight of your Culatello, and it'll calculate the spices for you. But there's only 2, salt and pepper. I believe we're adding 3% salt of the weight of the meat, and pepper, I think I added 1/4% by the weight of the meat. And if you want more of a pepper flavor, you can add more, or you can completely omit the pepper, but the salt, you want to keep it at 3%. Now we're going to go ahead and sprinkle 100% of that spice blend onto our Culatello. This is called the equilibrium cure, and it's a great way to cure your meat. It delivers reliable and consistent results. So 100% of that spice blend is going to be used. And if you want to get creative with the flavors and add garlic and paprika and all kinds of other spices, you could certainly do that. But the salt is the most important ingredient in this particular process. So let's go ahead and place that into a vacuum seal bag. Notice we've got a little of that salt pepper blend in our tray. We are going to want to use that. You don't want to have anything left behind when using the equilibrium method. So let's add that to the bag. And it's now time to vacuum seal it. If you don't have a vacuum sealer, I'll have a link in the description box below for the one I use, or you could use a Ziploc bag, which is slightly less reliable, but still works. This is now vacuum sealed, and what we need to do is determine how long it's going to take for this to properly cure. So we need to measure the height of the culatello, and this is roughly 5.5 inches. I don't know why I'm covering up the half part. And I'm going to go to a website. There'll be a link in the description box below. Click on the website and click on the option that says brining time. Type in the thickness, in our case, 5.5 inches. And as far as the shape goes, I would probably say this is mostly tubular. And so we're going to click that option, and it says 18.9 days. Now, that is the minimum amount of time for curing. It does say to add 20% to that so that we can make sure that this is cured all the way to the center. So we are going to add 20% to 18.9, which gives us a grand total of 22.6 days or 23 days. And so that's what we're going to do. This is going to hang out in our refrigerator for 23 days. And the cool thing about the equilibrium method is that if you can't get to it right away, don't worry about it. It's going to be totally fine. You can exceed your cure date by up to 4 weeks, and it will be okay. So that's going to cure in the fridge. I'm going to flip it and massage it every other day. And 23 days later, our culatello is properly cured. The salt that we have added has penetrated the meat to its core, and that's what's going to keep our meat from spoiling while it's drying. A quick blot to remove any of the excess moisture, and that is our culatello. It's now ready to start drying. Woo, that looks beautiful. Okay, so to dry this culatello in the home refrigerator, we're going to be using a product from the sausage maker called Dry Aging Steak Wraps. These are a plant-based wrap that are made to dry age beef inside your refrigerator, but I've found that these work great for dry curing meat inside your refrigerator as well. So in this kit comes netting, which we'll use later, 3 plant-based wraps. We'll pull one out right now, and all we got to do is wrap the meat inside this plant-based material and then put a netting around it. It's literally just that simple. I do want the meat a little damp, and I want to try to squeeze out any air pockets. We don't want air pockets while this is dry curing. And that's basically it. Let's go ahead and get this wrap on there, and then I'm going to put a netting around it. The netting is going to help hold that wrap in its place, and it's also going to help hold the shape of our culatello. A nice knot on the top and the bottom will keep your meat from spilling out. And the final thing you want to do before you start drying is place this on a scale and record the weight. Once you do that, place this into your home refrigerator, hang it on a shelf, or put it on a rack that allows for good airflow, and it's going to stay in your home refrigerator until you lose 35% of your original weight. For me, it took 6 to 7 months. Truth be told, I kind of lost track of time. This is what our culatello looks like after 6 or 7 months. It had a 35% weight loss, and it looks exactly how I expected it to look. But let's talk about it for a second. Right now, the exposed meat from this culatello is relatively firm, whereas the area around the fat seems somewhat soft. Well, I did expect that to happen because the conditions aren't ideal in your refrigerator. Notice this white stuff here on the exterior. That's not mold, that's actually salt that's made its way to the surface, and overall it smells quite pleasant. We did hit our target of 35% weight loss, so 21.27 is what we were shooting for, and I think we were at 21.19 or something like that. So let's go ahead and remove the netting and remove that vegetable wrap, that's what this is right here, and explore this culatello a little bit further. The wrap comes off fairly easy, but if yours gives you problems, soak it in warm water for just a couple minutes. The wrap quickly turns into a gelatin, so no problem there. Wrap is now off, and this culatello looks beautiful. There is quite a bit of salt buildup, so I am going to wash that off with a stiff bristle brush under some cool water. And in case you were wondering, the salt brushes off relatively easy. Once we're done with that, we need to move on to the next step of this process, which is aging the culatello. Traditional culatello is aged for 14 to 18 months, and remember, we're only 6 months into this journey, so we do want to age it. I also want to try to soften up that exposed meat. That is kind of a concern right now, but I'm not too worried about it because I think this next step will help equalize some of the moisture inside. We're going to create something called a sunya layer. Sunya is a paste that's made out of equal parts pork lard and rice flour. So all I do is I measure out 100 grams of pork lard, put 100 grams of rice flour, and that's our sunya. We're going to mix that, and it's going to slowly start to form what looks like Play-Doh. And this is what our finished product is going to look like. This layer is going to help control the drying. It's going to slow it down. It's also going to help some of the moisture that's inside our culatello sort of redistribute. And what I'm hoping that's going to do is help soften up that exposed meat area to minimize the amount of dry ring that we might have in the finished product. At least that's what I'm hoping, because right now it feels like we've got a pretty severe case of dry ring, which I hope isn't the case. So let's coat only the exposed meat area. And what I'm going to do is take a cheesecloth and just wrap it around our culatello. The reason I'm using a cheesecloth is because I don't want that pork, lard, rice mixture kind of flapping around all over the place in my refrigerator. So that cheesecloth is just going to act as a protective barrier. We're going to put another netting on it, and we are ready to hang this yet again in our home refrigerator. If you can't hang it, you definitely want to put it on a rack so that you get airflow on the top and the bottom, but my refrigerator allows me to hang it. And so back into the fridge it goes, and you're going to leave it in there undisturbed. I'm talking literally forget about it. 6 to 12 months, right? A minimum of 6 more months. I left mine in there for 12 additional months. And this is what it looks like. 18 months later from the start of our journey, our culatello is in its final destination to our cutting board, and this is incredibly exciting. Not sure what we're going to get when we open up this package. Is it raw inside? Does it have case hardening, or at the very least dry ring? These are concerns. These are questions that are running through my mind as I'm opening up this dry cured dream come true. Sunya layer looks beautiful, and it's now time to remove that with the back end of a butter knife. Once we get most of that removed, I'm just going to rinse it under some warm running water, and the final product looks like this. I got to tell you, I have got a lot of questions, and all of those questions are going to be answered as soon as we slice this culatello. So without further ado, let's cut into it.
All right, here we go. Time to taste our culatello. It's been dry curing for 18 months in our home refrigerator. What do you think about the end product here? Sliced paper thin. Oh, look at that. I got to admit, I was not expecting this. It smells fantastic. It doesn't quite have the complexity of smell that actual traditional culatello has, but you can definitely pick up on that umami from the aged element. Slight bit of sweetness. Let's just see how it tastes. So let's just go ahead and tear it open. Okay. Here we go. Wow. That's tasty. Not nearly as tender as traditional culatello. It actually has a little bit more of a firmness to it. And that may be because we did start slicing it from the outside, the outer area, which has a tendency to dry a little bit more than, let's say, the inside. And you know what? That brings up a good point. What does the inside of this culatello look like? Because this could have a severe case of dry ring, and the inside could be completely raw.
All right, so let's go ahead and take a peek inside this culatello. Let's cut it at about here, I guess, and see what's going on here, because this really is the telltale sign. This thing could be completely raw. Let's find out. All right. Oh, nice. Wow. That is not what I was expecting. So this has got a very nice firmness in the very center. Clearly a little bit drier around the edge. You know, that's the part of the meat that was exposed. But as far as the center goes, that is not raw at all. Matter of fact, that is perfect. Let's go ahead and slice this up and see what it tastes like.
The center slice of our culatello. Look at that. What do you think about that? Right? Absolutely beautiful. Sliced paper thin. You know, when you compare it to the outer slice, this one actually looks a bit darker, and it definitely felt drier. This one felt super tender. Wow. As far as smell goes, it smells extraordinary. To me, this has more complexity. You're definitely getting that funkiness, but it's balanced with a bit of a sweetness, almost like a buttery popcorn, macadamia nut thing going on. Oh, golly, that smells amazing. Okay, let's just go ahead and see how it tastes. Oh, look at that. That just feels tender. Now, this has more of that classic culatello texture, the center cut. So let's just see what it tastes like. Wow, I am blown away. I didn't think it was possible but it's totally possible to dry cure Culatello in your home refrigerator. Let's go ahead and try the rest of this with the fat on it. The fat is creamy. The overall texture is buttery. It just sort of melts in your mouth. And although it's not quite as developed and flavorful as traditional Italian Culatello, this is an absolutely amazing project to do if you have the space in your home refrigerator, and I hope you get a chance to try it. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. And if you're new here and you like dry cured meats, sausages, meat preservation, don't forget to click that subscribe button. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you in the next one.